I'm going to do a quick demonstration of how to use Andreas's definition here for doing a kind of spherical inversion, which is just a geometric operation. But the bigger thing is just I want to show how to get some packages off of the package manager that are necessary to run this definition, and just give a little sense for that. So I've opened up Dynamo, and I've got the base file for Andreas's definition here, and I'm going to open up the file that goes with it, which is over here in a subfolder, Surface Remixer. I'm going to open that up. It's a relatively complicated file, so it takes a second to boot up. And when it comes up, you're going to see that it's got, I think I've got one missing custom node in here. Let me see. Yeah. So if you open it up, you can see that I've got one that's red. I'm not even running it, but I've got a red node over here. And what that means is that this is a custom node that Andreas has put into this definition, and I don't have it. There's a couple of other custom nodes that he's got here, but I happen to have already downloaded them. But I can tell when I open it up that if I've got some red nodes, that means those are nodes that I don't have yet. So I'm just going to go over and I'm going to inspect what this one is. It says drop last row and column from UV field. So I'm going to go over to the package manager, and I'm already signed in to my Autodesk account here. You can make those up for free. You need to be signed in order to get them. So I'm just going to clear these downloads. I'm going to look for this package that I'm look for this custom node that I'm missing. So I'll just do drop last, and I'll search for it there. And I can just take a look at it and see, yep, this is indeed from Andy Dandy, which is Andreas's handle, and I'll get the latest one. So I'll just download that guy. Am I sure I want to install? Yes, I'm quite sure. So now I have it. And because this would have been plugged into some other things, now that I've got it loaded, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reload this so that it can sort of repopulate with all of its wirings connected to it. So I'm just going to open the same file again. Surface Remixer, open it up. And it'll take a second. But what it should be doing is that now it should be populated with the drop last row and column from UV field and have all of its wirings preserved. So if I scroll over to where that guy was, there it is. Drop last row and column from UV field. It has a list and a V input, and all those connections are preserved. So if I go over here, you can see that there's also a couple of other inputs that I still need to hook up. I'm going to select a face instance and select another face instance here, and I think there's a couple of other optional ones that I'll also get. Oops, I just lost my file. There he is. And there's a lot of notes, there's a lot of reading you can do here, and it also would like to have an image file. So I have an image file. And it looks like I've got all my connections set up now, and it should be good to go. I'm going to run it, and so we have a couple of errors over here, but those are actually just because these portions of the graph have been turned off essentially by not plugging them in. I can see here that says for lofting the resulting form, connect this output to the list input to the partition list, which is down here, or alternatively connected to the list input of the build sublist node above to create adaptive components. So basically Andreas has put in a switch here. So he's turned off a bunch of Revit geometry generation and a bunch of Revit family placement in order to just be able to process the raw geometry. So if I go over here and I go zoom to fit, I can see the raw geometry that's getting generated out of this file. I can visualize it here. I can sort of inspect what it's doing. It's making this funny kind of sea urchin shape. And then I can say, okay, well, that's about the right shape that I want. Now I can wire it up and make some geometry out of it. And this will be a longer operation. That wasn't even all that long, actually. It just popped right up over here. I'm going to hide some of this stuff just so that I can see the product of this script a little bit more clearly. So I'm just going to use standard hide element behavior. And there, I've got my funny sea urchin shape, which is kind of awesome. And I can also say, well, I don't want to just see that. I want to see some families. So let's generate some families over here. I'm going to pick a family to place, and I'll run that. And it's actually going to place it in exactly the same place as this guy. So it may be slightly obscured when it all pops out. But right now what it's doing is just going in and it's placing lots and lots of adaptive components instead of doing a form element generation in order to get real components. Many, many components. Oh, there it is. So now I've got a couple different ways of looking at this thing. I'm just going to tab in and isolate one of those components and say, let's isolate that category. And so now I'm just seeing the placed adaptive components. Each one of these is a loaded family. Anyway, that's just a little tour of sort of a somewhat complex definition and how you can go about finding and loading and plugging in custom components to these workflows. So try out the file, explore it, and have some fun with it. Thanks for watching.